Welcome to the summer cupcake class. I know here in New York, it's starting to really feel like summer and I'm loving it. We're focusing on some Hawaiian themed decorations. We have a Hawaiian skirt, some Hawaiian leaves, and a shell necklace topper. And I kind of went off of the theme of Moana for these, but Hawaiian can mean anything. So there's varying designs you can do for these cupcakes. We can go to the overhead camera and I'll show you guys the supplies we'll be working with today. So we're mainly going to be working with fondant, and we have Satin Ice White fondant, blue, purple, pink, bright green, and dark chocolate. You can find all of these at your local Michael's store. We're working with the 4.4 ounce size. And then I also have water and a food safe paintbrush. This is to help adhere our pieces together. I also have cornstarch. This is to help when your fondant starts to get sticky or if you have hot hands. You can put this on your work surface or on your hands or on top of the fondant. But it's important not to use too much because this can dry the fondant out. I have scissors to help me open up the packages. I have a round circle cutter. This is about 2 inches. I have a small square cutter, a leaf cutter, and then a very small flower cutter. I'm using a plum flower cutter, but if you have a daisy or another kind of flower, that's okay. I also have a knife and a rolling pin. And then I also do have a wet towel and a dry towel. This is to help clean your surface as we work, or your hands if the colors start to bleed onto your hands. And then some Ziploc bags to store your fondant after you open it. This is to keep it airtight so it doesn't dry out. And then for these cupcakes later, we're also going to be making coconut buttercream with Satin Ice Buttercream icing mix. And I'll show you the supplies for that later when we get to that. So I also have cupcakes here for when we decorate the cupcakes. So I'm going to put those to the side and we'll get started with the toppers. Okay. So the first topper we'll start with are the green Hawaiian leaf topper. So we'll need bright green, pink, and purple. And we will also need the circle cutter and the small flower cutter, as well as the leaf cutter. First, open up your green fondant, your bright green fondant. And when you take fondant out of the package, it's going to be a little firm. As you knead the fondant, it will become soft and pliable. So you can easily mold shapes and roll it. I'm only going to take a small portion. This is probably about 1 part of the 4.4 ounce. And I'm going to take the leftovers and put it in my Ziploc bag. So the first thing I'm going to do is knead the fondant because we need to get it soft and pliable. And so you can just press it in between your fingers. And before you know it, the fondant will be softer and more pliable. If you notice that it starts to stick to your hands, you can just take some cornstarch and sprinkle a little bit on top. It's important not to use too much. But I have hot hands, so I tend to always have to use cornstarch because the fondant will start to stick to my hands. Okay, so my fondant is starting to get softer now. So first I'm going to roll it into a nice ball, and I'm going to dust my surface with a little bit of cornstarch. And we're going to roll this out about 1/8 of an inch thick. It just has to be big enough so that we can cut out our circle. Okay, so now I'm going to take my circle cutter, and to get a clean cut, I'm going to press down and I'm going to give it a little twist. This helps separate the fondant a little bit. We have our circle, and then we're going to put this to the side. This is going to be the background of your topper. All the pieces are going to set on this. So we're going to set this to the side and take the rest of your green fondant and roll it up into a ball again and roll it out again 1/8 of an inch thick, just like we did before for the circle. So we are going to cut out about 7 leaves, and I'm just using a standard leaf cutter. I like to use the plungers because I think it's easier to pop it out. So I have my 7 leaves, and I have leftover green fondant. So I'm going to put this in the bag with the rest so that it doesn't dry out. Okay, so now we're going to bring the disc back, and we're going to need our water and our paintbrush, and we're going to layer these leaves around kind of in a circular formation to cover up the circle. So first I'm just going to lay them out so I know where I'm going to place them. It's no pattern in particular, it's just so that you can fully cover the circle. So you're kind of fanning them around. So now that I have mine placed, I'm going to use a small amount of water. If you use too much water with fondant, it can make it very sticky, and a little water goes a long way. So I'm just going to lift each leaf up a little bit and dab a little bit of water. If you have edible glue, you can also use edible glue. I know piping gel works as well. Okay, so we have our leaves adhered to the green fondant disc. And then next are the flower details. So I'm just going to put this to the side while we roll out our other colors. So we're going to need the smallest amount of pink fondant and purple fondant for the small flowers. So I'm going to take a little bit out of each of those colors. Placing these into the Ziploc bag with the other fondant so that it doesn't dry out. So I'm just going to knead each of these colors. And if your hands are hot and the fondant starts to get soft, also pay attention to if the color is starting to get on your fingers before you move to a next color, because you don't want it to bleed onto the other color you're working with. Okay, so both of these colors are kneaded and soft, so I'm going to roll each of them out and we're going to cut the flowers out. I'm going to do 3 of each color for the flowers. So again, I have a plunger cutter for this, and it's just a very small flower cutter. So I press down and I give it a little twist so that I know the cut is going to be clean. Also, another tip is that when you flip the cutter over, you can brush your finger over it to clean off any of the excess, and that will also give you a very clean cut. So I have 3 purple flowers, and now I'm going to cut 3 pink flowers. And before I pop each one out, I'm just rubbing my finger over the cutter to make sure there's no straggling pieces. Okay, so I have 6 flowers cut out, and we're going to adhere this to our bright green topper over the leaves. And we're just going to alternate them across the leaves. So you can start with whatever color you like. I'm going to start with purple. And with these, since they're very small, you need the slightest amount of water. So I'm going to alternate the colors. First I started with purple, and then I'll go down with the pink, and then I'll alternate up again with the purple. So our first topper is done, and this is going to remain soft, especially if for a few hours, especially if you are in a humid climate. So it's best to just let this rest. I like to let it rest on top of parchment paper, but you can let it rest for at least 24 hours. With toppers, that's what I like to do. This way it gets hard enough so that you can place it on top of a buttercream cupcake. If you wanted to do this design with a cookie, you can go ahead and put this directly on the cookie right now. But I'm using it as a topper, so I'm going to let it sit to the side and let it harden up for a cupcake. So I have some dye on my hands from the fondant, so I'm just going to take my wet towel and wipe that off so it doesn't get on the next colors we start to use. So the next topper we'll work on is the Hawaiian skirt topper. We use blue for the background, and then we mix colors. We do the dark brown and the white, and that's for the skirt. And then we'll make the rope for the skirt with pink and a flower that's purple. So, okay, so first let's start with our blue fondant. We're going to roll it out and cut the same shape as we did for the green cutters. So, I mean, it's for the green topper. So we won't need too much, just enough to roll it about 1/8 of an inch thick and to cut a circle out. Okay, so let's knead the blue fondant, get it soft. So once it becomes pliable, we will roll it out and cut our circle. I'm just dusting the surface with some cornstarch so that it doesn't stick. Okay. So I'm going to press the circle cutter down and give it a twist. This way it's a nice clean cut. And this is going to be the background for our skirt topper. And we can put the rest of the blue fondant away because we're done with that for now. The next colors you're going to need are the dark brown and white. So we're going to mix these two colors together to create a tan shade of fondant. Satin fondant is very concentrated with color, which is really good. So when we're mixing these colors together, we're going to just use the smallest amount of the dark chocolate because a little bit will go a long way. I'm just wiping my hands because I had color that rubbed off on them. Okay, so we got about 1 part of white fondant. And then we're going to take out like a dot of brown. And the brown fondant is actually a dark chocolate flavor and it tastes delicious. All the other colors are a vanilla flavor. Okay, someone asked if you can use powdered sugar instead of cornstarch. Yes, you can. But again, just be careful not to use too much because a little will go a long way. And if you use too much and that gets kneaded into the fondant, that will change the consistency of the fondant. So just be very careful when you're using cornstarch and powdered sugar. Okay, I'm going to use this small amount of brown with this amount of white. I'm going to place that there for now, and I'm going to put these 2 packets of fondant away so that they don't dry out. So to mix the colors together, we're just going to combine them and knead them together, and we'll see a tan color start to form. Okay, so my color formed already. That was very quick. The colors blend really nicely together. You can mix any of the classic Satin colors together to get unique shades. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to put the blue fondant disc to the side until we're ready to put the layers on. So we have our tan fondant, and this is going to be used for the skirt. So we're going to roll this out and we're going to cut a square out. Okay, so I'm rolling this out about 1/8 of an inch thick, just like all the others. And I'm going to cut this small square. So I'm going to press, and I'm just going to give it a little twist or a jiggle just to make sure that the fondant is separated from the cutter. Any extra of this color you can put to the side in a bag to make sure it doesn't dry out. Okay, so the skirt, we're going to give it a little bit of a shape. We're going to cut a little bit off of each side at an angle. So we're going to make it so it's tapered toward the top. So it's going to be skinnier at the top and a little wider at the bottom. So we're going to just, on an angle, cut down a little bit off of the square. So just that little bit. And now we're going to go on the other side again on angle and cut just a little bit. I'll picture. So when you're making toppers, the fondant could be about 1/8 of an inch thick. I don't ever measure, I just eyeball it. Let me see if I can show you. This is the thickness of mine. It's about 1/8 of an inch, it could be thinner. Okay, so now we cut the sides of the square to create this shape. And now if you wanted the skirt to be long, you can leave it like this, but my skirt was shorter, so I cut a little bit off the top edge. And now we have our skirt shape and we can cut the slits. So this part, you have to be really careful because we're only going to go up 3/4 of the way up the skirt. And once you cut thin pieces of fondant, it gets very delicate. So you just have to be really careful when you cut each slit, and don't make them too thin because again, that's going to make it a little bit hard to handle. If you want, you can have a little cornstarch on the side. I'll just like tap a little bit on top of this just so that it doesn't get really sticky when I cut through with the knife. Okay, so the first slit, I'm going to start on the left and make my way down the right. And I'm just going to do one cut straight down with a knife. Be careful once you, I would cut down and lift up. I wouldn't cut down and slide down because this fondant might stick to your knife and then your skirt would get ruined. So just take your time and cut down and lift up. If you're noticing the fondant is sticking to your knife, just take a little bit of cornstarch and put it on there. That's going to help it from sticking. So I'm cutting straight down and lifting straight up, and I'm just going about 3/4 of the way up the skirt. You can give the slits on the skirt a little bit of movement. Just be careful because the pieces are thin. You don't want them to break off. So now this can be attached to your blue fondant disc. So I'm going to bring that back around, and to help lift this up, since it is a little bit delicate now, since we have cut the slits, I'm going to use my knife to help me lift it. And right now my fondant is still a bit sticky on the back side. So I should just be able to place it down. I'm just putting it in the center of the blue disc. If you need to, you can put a little bit of water on the back of it or on the base of your glue disc where you're placing the skirt. But like I said before, just use a small amount, just as much as needed, because too much water on fondant will make the colors bleed. Okay, so next we're going to make the braided rope for the top of the skirt and cut out a flower. So we're going to just need a really small amount of pink fondant. So I'm going to go back into my bag that I put the pink fondant in before. I'm going to take both the pink and the purple out. So for the pink rope, we're going to need, like, I would say the size of a pea amount of fondant. We're going to, actually, yeah, just a pea size amount for the pink, and we're going to separate this into two. I'm going to put this away again so it doesn't dry out. Okay, so we're going to split this into two, and first make sure they're rolled into balls, and then we're going to roll it out into a skinny log. I'm going to make sure that I have cornstarch on my fingers so that it doesn't stick to my hand. And I'm just going to roll back and forth with light pressure with my pointer finger, and it's going to create a strand of fondant. You want to be careful not to use too much pressure because this will flatten it out. So I think that's long enough for that one. And we're going to repeat the process again with the next circle. And with light pressure, I'm just moving back and forth with my pointer finger. If you notice one side is getting skinnier than the other, that's okay. Just go to that side that has a little bit thicker and just roll back and forth there, and then go to the other side and roll back and forth there, just to make sure it's like a uniform thickness throughout the strand. Okay, so mine are about the same length and width now. So now we're just going to twist these to create the rope effect. So I'm just going to pick them up and I'm just going to start twisting them. So now I have my braided or twisted rope, and we're going to place this on top of the skirt now at the top. If it's too long, we can cut the excess off, but I'm just going to place it down so I know it's in the center and then cut off what I need to. And I'm going to need some water for mine, so I'm going to use the smallest amount just so I know it will stick. Okay, so I have extra fondant on the left side, so I'm going to take my knife and just cut that part off. And now we just need a small amount of purple for the flower. So I'm just going to need a small amount and roll that out and cut out flower, just like we did for the leaf topper. There's a lot of, you can also use green fondant if you wanted for this skirt to make it more of like a, what's the skirt name? The Hawaiian skirt, like the, I don't know, maybe like more of like a grass skirt. If you wanted it to be green, you could do that too. But I was going with the Moana vibe, so I picked tan. Okay, So I'm going to cut out a small flower. And again, I'm just going to wipe my finger over the edge to make sure it's a clean cut. Okay, so now we're just going to attach this to one of the sides of the rope, and I'm going to brush a tiny bit of water where I'm going to place the flower. There we go. Second topper is done. And I'm also going to set this aside so this can dry with the other. And then next, we're going to do the necklace. Again, this would be really fun if you did like more of a lei style necklace with flowers. You could do that too, but I decided to do a shell necklace. So the colors we're going to need are pink, dark brown, and white again, because we're going to make an ivory shade for the shells. So first, make sure your hands are clean from the other colors you were using before. And you want to also make sure that your work surface is clean as well. So when you clean your work surface off, just use a damp towel and then make sure you go over it with a dry towel, because if the surface is wet, then your fondant will get sticky.
How long will leftover fondant last in the Ziploc?
Leftover fondant in a Ziploc bag should last quite as long as if you had a tub of fondant. So as long as your fondant is airtight, your fondant should last for a long time. Our fondant is also sold in these pails, and the way it's normally in here is wrapped in a bag, and this has a shelf life of a year. So as long as you have your scraps airtight, another way to do it is to wrap it in like a cling wrap or a plastic wrap and then into a bag, or you can also put it into a bucket like this or a Tupperware to really make sure that it stays soft. You'll know that it's not good to use it if it starts to get crusty. That's just because air had gotten to it and you won't be able to roll it out and have a clean finish. Okay, so we're going to take our white and our dark brown out. And our pink. Okay, so first we'll start with the pink because that's the color of the base. We're going to knead this until it's soft. If your hands are worn like mine, it shouldn't take that long for your fondant to get soft. So that's one positive about having warm hands, but the downside is that the fondant will stick to your hands more than likely. So that's why it's good to have cornstarch or powdered sugar nearby. So I'm going to roll this out about 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm just going by eye. I'll show you how thick it is once I cut it. So it's on the circle cutter. Oh, my circle cutter. Okay. So we're going to press the cutter down and twist to make sure we have clean edges. So I'm going to use my knife to pick this up. So this is about the thickness that I'm going with for these discs. The thinner the fondant is, the quicker it will dry as well, which is good for your toppers. Again, you want to let your toppers dry for, I would say, at least 24 hours to make sure they're solid enough so that you can actually pick them up without them being flimsy, and then you can easily place them on top of a cupcake. But again, if you're putting this on a cookie, you can go ahead and put this directly on there right now because it doesn't have to, it's going to form to the shape of the cookie. Okay, so we have our pink disc ready, and now we're going to make our necklace. So we'll need the dark brown for the necklace part. We're going to use the same rope technique, just like we did with the skirt. So take a pea-size amount of chocolate fondant. Maybe a little bigger than a pea. Because, okay, so we used a smaller amount for the skirt because it was only going on this small area, but we have a wider area for this necklace. So I'm going to just do a little bit more than the size of a pea. And I'm going to split that into two and form two balls. And then we're also going to form these into skinny strands to do the rope technique. So again, make sure there's enough cornstarch. I'm going to actually put some on top of my fondant so that it's not sticky. And I'm going to roll back and forth with my pointer finger with light pressure to create a skinny strand. If there's thicker sides, just go over there with your finger and roll back and forth and just go across the whole line to make sure everything is uniform. So we're going to repeat this process with the other one. Just lightly roll back and forth. And then just work for the same thickness as your other strand. Okay, so since I did use a bit of cornstarch that it wouldn't stick to me, I'm going to, before twisting this so it sticks, I'm going to brush a really small, light amount of water just so that the fondant will stick to each other. Okay, so now we're going to twist these two pieces together, just like we did with the pink earlier. And this forms kind of the chain of the necklace. Okay, so also what I did, I put it into a U shape. So it's the shape of a necklace. And we can attach this to the pink disc. You also want to be careful that you're not picking up, like, so with your disc that you made before, once the fondant is out in air, it's going to start drying pretty quickly. So you'll notice that it starts to get, not really a crust, but you can tell that it's starting to dry out a little bit, and that's good because you want these to set, but just be careful you're not picking up and moving it too much, or else you'll have cracks in your fondant. So we're going to place the necklace onto the topper. We're going to use the smallest amount of water.
What tool did you use to get the two lines to twist?
So to get the two lines to twist, okay, so someone asked what tool I used to get the two lines to twist. I actually didn't use any tool. I just used my hands. I could show you again. I'll just take these. Okay, so these were two strands of fondant that I rolled out and formed, and then I just take them and I just twist and roll and combine them. And then mine's not sticking that much, so I need a little bit of water. They do, I'm sure there's molds out there that they have that you can get the same twist effect if you press it into a mold, but you can get just as good as an effect with just using your hands. Okay, so I made a small U shape with my water because that's going to be where I placed the necklace, right in the middle of the pink disc. And next we're going to make the shells for the necklace, and to give them more of a natural look, I put the tiniest amount of brown into white fondant just to give it kind of an off-white ivory color. So we'll take some white fondant out and mix some brown into it. Okay, so we mostly want the majority of this to be white. So take a small portion of white, and then we're going to use just a small dot of brown. Because again, Satin's colored fondant is very pigmented, which is amazing. So a little bit of this is going to go a long way. So I'm just going to place this onto the white and just start kneading the colors together. If it ends up being tan, that's okay too, but we're going to try for an ivory color. It's also a cool effect if you don't mix it all the way, because it will kind of give you like a natural marble effect. Okay, so once you have your ivory fondant, we are going to portion out 3 small balls about the size of a pea again. Okay. So measure. So you're just going to want to make sure that all of these are uniform in size. So I have 3 balls of ivory color, tan color fondant. And now I'm going to kind of shape them a little bit into an oval shape to get a shell shape. So I'm just pressing down with my pointer finger and also making sure that it stays narrow like an oval, but flattening a little bit. So like that. So I'm just lightly pressing down, but also pinching the sides at the same time, so it creates an oval shape. Okay, so once you have these oval shapes, we're going to attach them right under the chain of your necklace. So I'm just going to brush a tiny amount of water in the middle here, and you can attach these so they're in the middle. And then I'm going to use a small sharp knife, and this is just going to create the indents for the shells. And you're just going to lightly press straight down to create that indent. And there you go. So now the shell necklace topper is done as well. I'm going to place this one to the side. And to just give these cupcakes an extra flair, you can use tropical flavored buttercream. So I'm going to show you really quick how to make a coconut flavored buttercream with the Satin buttercream icing mix. So let me just clear this off really quick. Okay, so I already have the buttercream icing mix in my bowl. It comes in a pail like this. You'll find it at your local Michael's shop, and there's tons of recipes online. It's very versatile. You can put whatever flavors or colors you want in there. The recipes go off of 1 pound, and a normal recipe would be 1 pound of icing mix, 4 tablespoons of butter that's softened, and then 1 tablespoon of water. So I already have my 1 pound of buttercream icing mix already measured. And now I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. This is softened. I'm using salted butter. If you prefer unsalted, you can do that too. I think this helps cut the sweetness a little bit, so I like to use salted. So I'm going to place that in there. And then I also have, instead of water, we're going to use cream of coconut to help give that coconut flavor. So I'm going to put that in there as well. And then I have a coconut extract. I'm using, so for the coconut, the cream of coconut, I use a tablespoon, and I'm using half a teaspoon of coconut extract. If you like more coconut, feel free to replace the butter with all coconut cream, and you can use more coconut extract. You can customize this however you like, but since we're only working with 1 pound of icing mix, I'm just using a half a teaspoon of coconut extract. So I'm going to pour that in. And now this is going to mix up to a delicious light and fluffy buttercream. So I have a hand mixer. You can also use a stand mixer if you have one of those as well, but both of them work just as good. So I'm going to start on medium speed, and I'm just going to combine all this together. Okay, so you can tell it's starting to get creamy. I'm just going to scrape the sides of the bowl and underneath to really make sure everything's getting combined. And this buttercream, I might have a piece of fondant in here. This buttercream icing mix is really great for the summer months because it's heat stable. So you don't have to worry about your buttercream drooping or sliding off of your cake. Okay, so I'm going to just give this one more mix. So now you can either pipe this on your cupcake or you can spread it on. Show you how it pipes really quick. So I have a piping bag here. And if you have a piping tip, you can use that too, or you don't have to, you can use just a piping bag. I'm going to put the piping tip directly into the piping bag and cut the edge off so that the tip can come through. You want to make sure you don't cut too much off the edge of the bag because then the piping tip will slide through. So I pulled the bag over my hand, and this creates a nice pocket to put the buttercream in neatly. And I'm going to put a little bit in at a time so it stays neat. Okay, I have enough to show you how to pipe. So I'm just going to squeeze the buttercream out and swirl it. And then you can place your cupcake topper on top, just like all of these. Mine are still not dry yet, so I'm not going to put these on top of the buttercream cupcakes that I just did yet. But these I did 24 hours ago, so they are set and dry and ready to go. So that's it. Thank you guys for joining the Hawaiian or the summer cupcake class, and I hope you guys enjoy making these, and definitely tag Michaels and Satin Ice on social media if you guys make these. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Have a great day.